Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggelhaus. Well, here we are once again at San Diego Comic-Con 2024, and you knew I had to put together a video talking to dealers about where we are in the current state of the comic market. How are fans reacting to the exciting Doctor Doom news? What are people collecting these days? And what do these guys think about PSA entering the comic grading space? It's always a pleasure getting these dealers' insights, and I hope you guys gain value from this. As usual, this video is a bit on the longer side, so grab some bags and boards, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Of course, if you could like, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it. But with that, I give you dealer interviews from San Diego Comic-Con 2024. All right, well, I'm back with Austin from Reece's Rare Comics. Austin, it's good to see you. Here we are.
You too, Mickey.
San Diego Comic-Con 2024, another year.
Another one down, man.
Well, let me start here. I always have to do the thing where I go around and talk to all the dealers, get the download from how it's all been. I guess in a general sense, how's this show been compared to last year? And let me set it up a little bit more. Last year was kind of a weird year since we had the strikes and no Hall H and all that. How's this year felt, generally this year?
Yeah, there's definitely more of a buzz in the air this year. Obviously, like you mentioned, the writer's strike and just having the actors kind of back in the building, having the big Hall H panel. I mentioned to you earlier, I don't know if that necessarily translated to vintage comic book sales directly, but there's definitely more of a hype in the air and just around the town, which is kind of fun to see again.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's just more foot traffic in general, even if people didn't necessarily buy?
Yeah, definitely in the comic area, it's kind of day by day, because some people only get a pass for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. So day by day, it's hard to tell, but I definitely saw a lot more foot traffic in general across the board this year.
Let me go to that Hall H thing. Last night we had the big announcement of Robert Downey Jr., Doctor Doom. He's back. I've talked to other people where it was that old school habit of, hey, do you have that Doom book now?
Man, yeah.
Did you get that as well?
We definitely had some of it. Didn't sell any extra FF5s, but certainly some of the more modern books that we had on our website that we didn't have here sold overnight. So it was interesting to kind of see people, kind of jumping back on that movie hype, which, I don't know if that's panned out for people over the years, but look, I'm happy to make any kind of sales like that I can, and thank you, Marvel.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of just an interesting thing where, we talked a little bit before we started recording where there's an interest there. Maybe people just don't have the funds necessarily to pull the trigger on the FF5, but where that interest had been kind of going down the last couple of years, it feels like that, like you said, there's more of a simmering, more of a buzz.
Yeah, absolutely.
People want to get a Doom book. Maybe I'll buy that. Infamous Iron Man 1, I have the budget to get that,
Yeah, I think it's whatever, that's kind of true across the board, right? Yeah. It's like, what do I like and what can I afford? With the movie hype thing, it always has felt to me like kind of more of a quick flip.
Right.
So I think it's kind of within that budget of what they can find and afford and hopefully make some money on down the road, and that's all good with them,
Right.
I understand why people would want to do that, and that makes sense to me.
Right. Well, let me jump over to kind of the other sort of big news that, PSA has now sort of thrown their hat into the comic grading market. Two questions for you. One, have you got a chance to sort of see the case, and what's your sort of opinion on them? And then two, what do you think in general of them coming in?
So I'll take two first, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think it's great for the hobby. I think more competition is always good. I think they're going to push CGC and CBCS to offer some things that they might not have offered before. I don't think it's a coincidence that CGC acquired JSA in the last few months. That's just me. But that's already something that we've seen that's a tangible benefit. We've seen CGC set up for on-site grading in HeroesCon a month or two ago, and they announced they're doing it in Baltimore in the fall. I don't know if that's directly related, but it certainly feels like the timing is there. And then for your first question, I did get a chance to check out the PSA case. I let them know my critiques of it, and I think number one is it's a little too big and bulky. Didn't fit the same size as the CGC and CBCS cases, so the first thing I think they need to do is scale that down so that they're uniform when collectors are looking through their boxes. When I have books in my boxes, I kind of want to flip through them and have them all be the same size.
Right.
And then my second note, which I'm sure they've heard a lot this weekend, I think they need to adjust the label some. It definitely looks a little bit outdated, and I kind of made the example to them of when you see a book on the wall, if you're standing out there as a customer, you can't see the grade on what they're talking about. You can't find the information easily. And so if you're new to comic collecting or new to the hobby, those are kind of the things that you want to recognize very quickly. And so those are the few notes I had for them. But overall, I think, they have a good first prototype, and I hope they take some feedback to heart and adjust it from there.
Yeah. One of the big things to me that I wonder from your perspective with PSA is it's one thing to sort of send in a modern book and test them out and kind of have those books in PSA slabs. It's another thing to take your Action 1 and feel like, okay, I'm going to send it to PSA.
Right.
What do you think it's going to require for you to actually start sending them like high value books?
Sure.
And to get that trust?
Yeah, well, for me, we're really a reflection of what our customers ask for, right? So if our customers are asking for more PSA books, if they're asking for more CBCS books, more CGC books, more signature series books, those are the kind of things. Then I go out and I maybe submit some more books to them, or I go and get some more books signed, or I get some more books graded. Or conversely, some people want more key books ungraded, so maybe I'll hold some more stuff back. So I try and really just take the feedback from my customers and then reflect that in our business.
I know it's early, but do you have a sense of what said customers feel about PSA or what they're already saying?
I don't. It's too new for me to tell, but I do know that PSA has a pretty loyal following, and I think there's going to be a lot of guys that we don't even know who are just going to be, brand consistent from their sports cards, from their trading cards, who are going to, maybe even get into comic books a little bit because PSA is getting into that world. So it all kind of goes back to this is a good thing for everybody.
Right. Well, last couple thoughts. 2024, it feels like is a little more exciting in terms of the comic space, or it's starting to get exciting. I mean, what's your just general feeling?
First of all, I think comics are always exciting. It's not always dollars and cents for us. It's about what's going on, and the customers we meet and the people that show up to these shows. Putting faces and names is always fun. It's no surprise comics have been in the downturn for the last 2.5, 3 years. And I think we've seen a real interest in Silver Age books this weekend, which I found to be really interesting because for the last couple years, there's been a lot more emphasis on Golden Age books and people wanting to kind of safely park their money, if you will.
Right.
But I think a lot of people are re-entering the market for those Silver Age Marvels specifically. I got asked for a lot of Spider-Man ones, Tales 39s, FF5s, FF1s, X-Men ones. DC not so much this weekend, which I found interesting. I didn't get asked for Brave and the Bold 28 or Showcase 4 or Showcase 22 or JLA 1. But so that's kind of a note that I'm taking out of this weekend when I go back and into the office the next few weeks and kind of assess what our inventory looks like and maybe what we might be pursuing a little more heavily in the next few months.
Got it. Well, Austin, thanks so much for your insight. It's always great to talk to you and see you, and hope you have a great rest of the show.
Swaggle House, let's go!
All right, we're back here with Bob from High Grade Comics. Bob, San Diego Comic-Con 2024.
Yes,
it's the big show. It's the Super Bowl. How's everything been so far?
This year has been great. Great show.
Yeah.
Cannot complain one day.
It's been great, especially compared to last year, where it was a little bit of an odd year, no Hall H panel,
Correct.
and none of that kind of actor incitement. Let me start there with you. The big announcement last night, we had Hall H coming back. We have Dr. Doom announcements. Do you feel like at this show, there's been sort of a re-energized,
Yes,
people
we
amongst
have-
the movies
we
and the
have.
crowd and excitement and stuff? Like,
Absolutely. We have the Dr. Doom buzz is back in the room.
so you're selling Dr. Doom books then?
I've already, Sunday morning, already the FF5, sold the Marvel Superheroes 20. Even the off-issue Dr. Doom covers are all being looked at. There's a new buzz in the room, yes, absolutely.
Did you also sort of feel that? We had Deadpool and Wolverine earlier this weekend come out. Did you kind of feel like a Hulk 181 request sort of thing coming in?
I thought I did have a lot of Hulk 181 requests. I really thought New Mutants 98 would have been asked for more, which did not happen. Saw a lot of the weird Wolverine, like the Deadpool where he has
Wolverine
later-
88, yeah.
correct.
Yes,
There was
yeah.
a lot of requests for cheaper versions.
Got it.
But I was very surprised that New Mutants 98 did not sell
Right.
as much as I thought.
Well, let me ask about that then. So, with the Doom stuff, you mentioned kind of the other Doom stuff, like Marvel Superheroes 20. Do you feel like there's kind of this budget aspect where it's like people aren't going for FF5 necessarily, but they want that
They're,
other one?
for example, FF57. This cover.
Right.
A lot of requests for that. The cheaper versions of the Galactus cover. The big, FF in the 200s.
Right.
Like the burn versions.
Right.
I haven't seen the interest start in FF6 yet, the Dr. Doom crossover. FF16, which I have. Classic cover.
Right.
FF48s I have not gotten asked for. A lot of Silver Surfer ones, which is strange. I'm surprised at that, because I would have thought more 48s.
Right.
And there's also been a huge ask because Todd McFarlane is here.
Right. Right.
So there's been a huge, people have been buying all kinds of his issues to get sold.
Right. Let me ask this: what's been kind of the breakdown for raw books versus slab books? A lot of people have said that slab books are harder to sell these days.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on that?
Absolutely not. This year, I did Torpedo and I did San Diego. It's, for some reason, the first couple days were all wall books, which is very unusual. Normally, it's box stock first. They save up. This year, it was when preview night Thursday, it was all wall books.
Right. So you think? I guess that's really the big story. Is last couple of years have been kind of down. People are a little more discerning with what they want to get, and this year's kind of a return to, hey, let me get that key.
This year, it's the repricing, revaluing. You're either going to bite the bullet on stuff you bought during COVID or you're not. Dealers are, anything that you took in trade, you're either going to have to cycle it down to where it'll sell or it won't.
Right, right. Now, let me jump forward to the other big story that kind of came out. PSA had a booth. They had a setup, did an announcement that they're jumping into the comic book grading game. Let me get your thoughts. Somebody has been around comics for a long time. What did you think of the cases? And then, I guess, more broadly, what do you think about them entering comics?
I honestly do not have a problem with competition in the grading field. They did come by, a young girl came by with the PSA holder, and to be nice, now people know me a long time, and it's like, was it good Bob or bad Bob? Bad Bob could have had PSA reps in tears, took the high road, listen, all the grading companies design this stuff with it in front of their face. I asked her, she's 20 years old, stand behind the booth, put it on the rack. What's the label say? She couldn't read it.
Right.
I said, I'm 63, I couldn't read the label. This thing weighs a ton. It didn't fit in the CGC box. And I said, listen, I know Mark Wilson a long time. If he were in front of me, I would have went, seriously got to rethink that quality, And the other thing is, I know for a fact they did not load up a display rack with those, because it would literally blow up my rack.
Right.
The weight.
Right.
It's a very heavy holder, and while sturdy is one thing, you really got to look at packaging. She told me it weighed 1.6 pounds. I said, absolutely not. You got to put that thing between two pieces of cardboard, put it in a priority box, you're over 2 pounds.
Right, right.
So, and the weight, a magazine, a CGC box right now weighs 35 pounds. This will weigh 50.
Right.
And listen, we're not getting any younger, and you put a modern in that holder, and holy cow, it's almost like when they designed the magazine, when they started grading magazines, the weight's insane, and the box.
Right. Yeah, it's a situation where it's kind of like you don't want to have them throw out the baby with the bathwater here, where it's like you already disqualify yourself from the ecosystem of shelves and weight and box stock and all that.
Every grading company is guilty of design without talking to the people that sell it. That's always been my issue. They may pick friends to look at those holders. There's an industry forum of dealers that when you go to sell the product, is each person brings a different perspective. Who's the guy looking at the holder like this? Who's looking at the holder when it's on your computer screen and when it's on your display rack? There's only so many ways you can look at a design.
Right.
And the fonts, this is a really pretty color. But listen, the first grading company establishes and puts that color palette in your head. Blue means this, purple means this, red. When I saw the red label, that was CGC's first modern label.
Right.
Well, we know where that went. And red is a visual that, the stop signs are red for a reason. Red on my label, not gonna. She's like, you like blue, don't you? And I'm like, no, it's because that's what the collecting hobby has been trained to accept as that's universal.
Right,
So
right.
it's just basic design. That stuff drives me nuts.
All right. Well, let me ask this then. Just sort of looking ahead, it feels like this year, this show, attendance was up, excitement was up for the movies and the books related to it. Sales were up. A lot of stuff going on in the business.
For
It
was a great show. There are some dealers that are going to say this was a slow show.
Sure.
This show is always about, you got to have the books. You got to make people stop at your booth.
Right.
You got to have something that they can't see somewhere else.
Right.
If you can't create, listen, we're just as responsible as Marvel to create a buzz in the room. If you're not bringing new stuff or cool books to the show, and listen, this is not a cheap show to do.
Right.
You gotta make people stop. And listen, having Marvel in the room, and the other thing was last year was the writer's strike.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of negativity, with that, and resentment that that when they're not working, and there's no, even though it's a very limited movie palette, having Marvel and DC at shows is like, is the equivalent of having CGC doing on-site grading, which I refer to as having the casino in the room.
Right.
When the casino is in the room, people are very excited.
Right. Well, Bob, thanks again for your time.
Always
It's always a pleasure talking to you. We'll catch you on the next one. All right. Well, I'm with Richard from Bedrock City Comics. Richard, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Nice
How are you?
have you here at San Diego Comic-Con 2024.
Always good to be here.
Yeah. I've been going around the show asking the dealers, as I like to do, generally speaking, how has this show been so far this year compared to, say, the last couple?
Well, it's for us, sales are a little down from the last couple, but there seems to be a whole lot of excitement now after Robert Downey Jr. kind of jumped out of the pumpkin or whatever he did over there. So, we've had a whole bunch of sales this morning. It's been really good. So.
Well, that's interesting. So we'll recap that. They had the Hall H, which they didn't have last year.
Right.
And the big announcement was the Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr. thing. Did you feel the effect this morning of people being like, hey, do you have that Dr. Doom? Or all of a sudden they want to see that Marvel superheroes behind you?
We heard about it as we were leaving last night. And, John sent me a text with it, but then I had customers texting, and between that and Alex Bregman walking off the Dodgers at 7 o'clock last night, the phone was blowing up. But, and then the first thing this morning, we had a guy come over and, look at the FF5, and we've had a bunch of people looking at that. And so, Doom, it's like the old days of movies generating heat.
Well, that's kind of where I wanted to, really bring it back to, where I feel like that going towards the thing that was exciting within the pop cultural landscape, the movie, whatever, that had been kind of dying down. But I just sort of felt like it was back here.
Well, it's a two-sided coin with the speculation thing. But for me and for us, as I sell old comics, but I'm also a retailer. And from a retail standpoint, I'm real excited about it because we've been waiting for something to generate heat in the shops for some time, whether it's editorial from the publishers or whether Marvel movies. And it's been a little while since that's happened. And this is kind of exciting because it is going to be something that's going to get people talking. And Deadpool Wolverine has gotten people. We did a pre-screening at the shop back in Houston this past week, and it was, a big success, and folks were excited about that. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback now from things that are going on in the industry, and it's pretty cool.
Right. Well, speaking of things going on in the industry, the other big news here was PSA kind of threw their hat into the ring as far as them entering the comic grading space.
Right.
They're over there. They got their booth. My questions to you are, one, have you been able to check out the cases and what are your thoughts on them? And then two, what do you think, I guess, just more at a macro level of them entering comics?
I did look at the cases. They're a little big, and a little bulky and a little bland to me, but obviously their big thing is that they're, unbreakable and they can dunk them in water and stuff. Right. But they picked somebody as a head grader over there that I have a lot of issues with. And I think because he's going to, at this point, as the face of that, it's kind of a non-starter for me.
Gotcha.
Without getting into a whole lot of details. Everybody will talk about it elsewhere, but I don't think they could have picked anybody with a worse reputation in the dealer part of the hobby to front their business than the guy that they did.
And you think that's probably obviously a big hang-up for, to take your situation out of it, if you're a dealer who has a Action Comics 1, you know, what is it going to take for that person to send it, you know, or a vintage comic book to send to PSA for them to gain those types of
in a broader picture, for any grading company to get a foothold in this industry, they got to get dealers to handle their stuff.
Yeah.
Talking with them, they want to get people outside of this industry to jump on. They think they can expand it. But if they can't get dealers that are already in the industry to handle their stuff, they're not really going to get a foothold in the comic book industry. And you know, just the talk around here, a lot of us have dealt with that guy and had bad dealings with him, and a lot of my customers have had really bad dealings with him. And so I don't see any reason why I would want to be associated with that. So as a dealer, I would never handle that product because that guy is the face of that product.
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
so.
What's your just general thoughts, sort of looking ahead, reflecting back in the last couple of years and kind of where we are today?
I'm always gung-ho about this stuff, and I'm positive about it going forward. I think, you know, Bronze Age and Copper may be down a little bit, or flatlining. Silver Age may be down a little. Golden Age is hot. Every dog has its day. This stuff cycles around. We've been in it a long time, and you know, something else will be hot next month, and the month after that, and the month after that. But there's always a place for this, you know, in people's entertainment, in their hobby, and their collecting, and their investing, whatever. It's just too much fun, and I'm looking forward to the future because I think it's going to be really bright.
Right. Well, Richard, thanks again so much for taking the time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Always a pleasure.
All right, well, we're with Vincent Zerzolo once again with Metropolis Comics / Comic Connect.
Right
Vince, San Diego Comic-Con 2024.
We have had such an amazing time here at San Diego Comic-Con 2024. It is hard to believe another Comic-Con has gone by. It is like I think my 30th San Diego Comic-Con, except for the COVID year.
Yeah.
But this has been a great show. We've had an incredible outpouring of collectors that are interested not only in like the big ticket items, but runs of stuff, like just filling in holes in their collections, which is really nice to see. That's an important backbone of the comic book collecting community. You want to make sure people aren't just buying the number ones or the key issues. You want people to want to read or at least collect, you know, slabbed holder, you know, the books. So it's been really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, you know, last year we had that actor strike, the writer strike. There was no Hall H. Felt a little bit off in a way. This year we kind of had that big announcement last night, Robert Downey Jr. and Dr. Doom and all this excitement. Do you feel a different enthusiasm? Do you feel the attendance is higher? What's your just thoughts on the whole
my feel is that it's been an exciting, energetic show. Hall H, very interesting. Robert Downey Jr., on the one hand, I'm like, they couldn't find anybody else to play Dr. Doom. On the other hand, I'm saying maybe it's an alternate universe where instead of becoming Iron Man, becomes Dr. Doom. I'm not sure what they're going with it. But he's great. It's going to create a lot of excitement. I had a customer up over looking at an Iron Man book and said, whatever Robert Downey Jr. does, it's great. I love it. I'm going to follow it. I'm sure they know what they're doing. It's going to be better than a lot of the stuff we've been seeing lately. Yeah. Having said that, the other piece of exciting entertainment news was Deadpool versus Wolverine, which I got to see the other night. Super fun, really great, really cool, and very violent. And great cameos. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it, but yeah, great cameos. So I think those two things really have created excitement. Also, Marvel did an incredible drone light show for the Fantastic Four. Really, really well received. A lot of buzz about that. So people are excited about the Fantastic Four. A lot of people looking at FF number 5, Fantastic Four number 1, FF 48. They're excited. They want to see what's going to be happening. So that's been really cool. Another property that's going to be coming out next year that they had a great response from was science fiction novels turned into a TV series called Venus Prime. That should be really good. And then the other thing is my comic book, The Addiction.
There you go, right there.
And this is The Addiction number 2 San Diego variant. We had a huge line of people the first day of the show, or Thursday, and had record sales for us, and it's just been so exciting. The Addiction number 1 just hit comic stores last week. We sold over 7,000 copies to comic stores. It's a huge number for an unknown independent publisher. So it's been really exciting. We've got covers by Archer, David Mack, Andres Labrada, Arthurita Martinez, Amanda Connor, Ryan Brown, Robot Cat, first cover ever for in a comic book, Robot Cat, and it's just been a blast.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. I mean, there's definitely been more excitement in terms of what I felt with whether it be the vintage stuff or new comic books, people creating their own stuff.
Yeah.
One of the other big announcements, jumping ahead, to come out of the comic space is PSA.
Yeah.
Entering the graded comic marketplace. Two questions to you. Obviously, you've been in this for a long time. You've felt CGC and CBS cases and seen their progressions. First question is sort of, what did you think of their cases if you got a chance to check them out? And then two, how do you just feel about them in a top level, like coming into comic books?
I think PSA is a really strong company that has a lot of great infrastructure that'll be able to allow them to penetrate the market. In some way, I think also them being out on the West Coast helps them, because the only other company on the West Coast is PGX, a much smaller company. CBCS is in Texas. So I think geographically that'll help them a little bit to get, and also you're going to probably build this off the backbone of the business, which is cards, and there's probably a lot of card guys out there who have comic books or want to get into comic books, so that'll help them. In terms of the label, look, it's all first gen. I think they're going to take a lot of feedback that they got here at the convention and try to improve. Obviously their case is very large and very heavy.
Yeah.
I believe that they'll make improvements to that. I did think it was interesting to have two options, I heard. One was a heavier case and one was a lighter case, which is a cool idea, because I think collectors would want the heavier case to be able to put on display, and it does feel really strong. And then for dealers, for shipping and also for carrying a box of 30 of them, you go from 35 pounds to 70 pounds. That's a heavy box of books to lug around. So the other thing, I think they have some work to do in terms of their label, their font size.
Right.
The fonts that they chose, I don't think are as easily readable, legible, and also I think they need some bigger fonts. But it should be exciting and interesting to see how it shakes out. They also need a holder that fits inside the magazine box, comic box. It's bigger than a comic box, which again, I'm looking at this very much from a retailer's perspective and a dealer's perspective, which I think they may have come at it from a different perspective when they were coming up with their prototypes, but I think they'll get a lot of feedback and they'll start doing things a little differently. And I do believe, at the end of the day, competition is a good thing. I think CGC does a great job. I think CBCS has been coming along. PGX is PGX, and I don't know. Actually, I haven't seen a lot of PGX in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Other than if somebody consigns it to me, I haven't seen a lot of fresh new PGX at conventions.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be interesting to see where it goes from here. But speaking of where we go from here, just as somebody who, you big dealer, you have your auction house, you probably got consignments today, you got people interested in books coming to market today, you got some Catmans over here, a lot of cool stuff. What's your just general thoughts? Here we are, 2024, like just your feel on the comics.
The market, obviously changed a lot from when the heights of the pandemic were occurring. We've had a lot of things going down in price, but I've seen a plateauing and an improvement in the overall prices in terms of Silver Age and Bronze Age and Copper, which were the ones that were most greatly affected by the downturn in the market after the pandemic. Having said that, Golden Age, which is one of our strong suits, has been very, very healthy, and we are so proud and excited to be representing actor and musician Ruben Blades' collection, him and his collection in the market. We'll be bringing Ruben Blades' collection, Detective 27, 31, 38, Green Giant #1. For those of you who know Golden Age, you never see this book. All Negro #1, the first black published comic book. A Catman run, which is right over here. It's just extraordinary, these Catmans. Suspense #3. Sensation 1, Startling Terror Tales #11. There's so many great books in this collection. Punch #12. We're really, really, really very excited about it. The auction starts September 2nd and will end the week of September 23rd through the 27th. Everything starts at $1, no reserves, and we have great art selection in this auction. It should be a really exciting time.
Awesome. Well, hopefully they'll all end for $1 so I can buy them for $2. But Vincent, thanks so much for taking the time as always, and have a great rest of the show. Last year was a little bit strange because there was the actor strike. There was no Hall H, different kind of feel of the show. This year feels a little bit more of a buzz, maybe a little more attendance. Is that true? Is that your experience? What's your thoughts so far on the show?
So I'm going to come from an exhibitor's perspective because that's why I'm here, right, as an exhibitor. So last year was a great year to exhibit, as everyone who was not having to be tied up with their time in a hall or a panel or signatures by actors was on the floor, actually enjoying the hobby in a different way and getting back to the basics. I loved it. It was a great show. This show is still a good show. The energy's different in a way that people are excited about the future now.
Right.
So there was always buzz. There's going to be big announcements, but now that we saw Robert Downey Jr. and the absolute amazing success of this Deadpool Wolverine movie, which I have not seen, but I'm excited to see it. So it's a different vibe. Both have been good years, great sales. So really enjoying the hobby on a different level this year from last year. And so that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask about that Deadpool factor.
Don't spoil it for me.
I won't. And the Doctor Doom, Robert Downey Jr. factor. I noticed that you got a bunch of Hulk 181s on the wall.
I do.
Was there that sort of return to, hey, the person comes up to the booth, they're like, oh, I saw Deadpool, I need that Hulk 181. Was there that momentum and similar with the Doctor Doom stuff?
Yes. So I brought 23 or 24 Hulk 181s to this show. Had them for 15 years, guys, okay? Not going to crash the market, but I have sold 9 of them this weekend. So I've been asked for New Mutants 98.
Yeah.
Going crazy here. Didn't have any Deadpools, but I probably would have sold a few of those as well. So yes, thank you Ryan Reynolds for making an absolute amazing film. Hugh Jackman, shout out to you. I know you're watching right now. So yeah, I mean, it's a great book. It's always going to be a great book. And now is the time to move them. And I feel we're looking at a time in this hobby where in 3-4 years, we're going to be like, we should have been buying right now. Because things are at a low and everything looks far more tantalizing than it was just a year and a half ago.
Right. And do you feel like the consumer behavior is sort of, they're finally ready to buy that 181 when maybe last year they weren't? Or do you think it's just any given person?
I think they're finding that they've wanted that book in this collection for a long time. It's been tough to obtain it. Now it's more palpable. And so people are pulling the trigger and feeling that we're close to bottom, if not at bottom on some of these books.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, well, switching to one of the other big pieces of news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, obviously behind you is the PSA booth. You know, they're kind of coming into the game.
Yep.
2 questions for you.
Okay.
One, have you been able to check out the case and feel it, and what are your thoughts on that?
Okay.
And then 2, how do you just feel about them coming in the way that they are and trying to be a player in comic books?
So I've expressed this many times. I love more competition in a marketplace, no matter what it is. I think it keeps people honest, and it keeps the hobby growing, and I think it's very important to be for that. So I love the fact that PSA is entering. I think they're going to have an immediate impact. Will they outpace CGC? No. But do I think it's a loss if you don't? No. I just capture the market some, give us another perspective on the hobby, and the holders are great. A little bit big right now, but they're working on it. If I'm a collector, I want my book in that type of rigid holder. It feels like something extra special to the durability of it, the structure of it, the eye appeal is, I think we're about 80% there. I got to get used to that red ribbon. You know, I'm not a card guy, so I'm not used to it. Comic people are very visual, so I expect something a little bit more appealing, but I don't think we're going to get that from them. They have their own style, and they want to stick to that. But for the structural integrity of this holder, I like it. I like what they're doing. Now, as an exhibitor, if I have to carry a short box of those, I think it's going to be about 60 pounds.
Right.
So that's a lot to ship. That's a lot to manhandle. For most, but not for the guru. Plug.
It's been working out.
Not like this guy, though. Look at this dude. This dude's
Relax. PSA, they have their audience, they have their market, and I'm sure that they'll do well and be profitable.
Yep.
But, like, if you're somebody who has your Action Comics 1 and it's a raw comic, what is it going to take for you to send a high-value Golden Age book to PSA where you feel comfortable sort of trusting that company? I mean,
I want to be like, like for my personal collection, look, I'm going to go with CGC because, as usual, they capture the market. People want their books in CGC because they sell for more. Yes, I would like to put a PSA holder for security, I guess. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think I'm going to be using PSA immediately.
Yeah.
Other than to support them, because I want to support another company so that we can get to a place where there's more people grading. So for my personal books, though, because I want them to be graded by CGC so that I can, if I have to sell it quickly, I know that I will get the best value.
Right. So it's going to take, so it's fair to say it's going to take time. They have to build up that trust. They have to build up their infrastructure, their volume, and maybe over time.
They need to show great quality control.
Yeah.
They need to show that they are excellent graders. They have to really let people know how structurally sound that holder is and how much it's going to protect your book. If you can really communicate that to the masses, then I think it's better for all of us.
Today was good, yesterday was epic, and the day before that was good. So overall, I'd say VG.
VG copy of San Diego. Well, I feel like that's a little higher grade than the previous year, which didn't have Hall H. There was writer strike, actor strike. So it was kind of a weird year. This year, I felt personally that there was more buzz and more excitement.
Definitely.
You know, at least on the show floor, at least around the city.
Oh, it's packed. It's like insane.
Yeah. Did you feel that manifested, say, to comic books? Were people sort of asking about, say, a Deadpool or Wolverine or a Dr. Doom with Robert Downey Jr.? Like, what was your sense on that?
Well, we definitely had a lot of inquiries about all of the above. To be exact, we've sold pretty much a little something from all of those titles. We're pretty excited about the buzz. It was more of a two-part question, so I'll answer the first part first. What I've noticed was the fact that the energy by far was at a whole nother level this year versus last year. Now, I wouldn't say last year was terrible, but what I will say is the energy level was significantly higher. People are coming in, they know what they want. People are very well educated in the marketplace, which is something we love, right? So they don't really need to haggle if you price your inventory right. As a dealer, they already know what they want, and most people know what they want to pay. So if you have those two in combination, I think it creates a really good scenario for the collector, but also the dealer. There was a gentleman that just left. He's a guitarist for Tool, and he just picked up a couple of epic Golden Age pieces. Prior to that, someone just bought a G.I. Joe #1 9/8 newsstand. We sold a 6.0 Hulk 1, a 7.5 Hulk 2. 2 AF-15s, just a lot of that kind of Silver Age, Golden Age combo. There's a gentleman that came by and made an offer on 2 of my Batman ones. Not one, but he made an offer on the pair. And then I realized who he was. And so, obviously when you have that inside scoop on what's coming, it's a good time to buy. And so that's kind of interesting to see these celebrities or people that are extremely influential in the space diving into comics, because he didn't sound like he was a big time collector, more of than what he does normally, right? So that was interesting to see that. It was very exciting to have that conversation, and also so I started going around in booths picking up certain books from other dealers, just paying sticker price. Because when you hear certain things, it gets you excited, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I do what you guys do. Like I have the same.
We all get the FOMO every now and again. It happens, and that is a very interesting aspect here in San Diego. It's like you do get kind of a celebrity clientele every now and again. I know a guy over there that CM Punk, who's a big wrestler, came through and bought some books. Other big news coming out of the weekend is, of course, actually right across from you is the PSA booth. How do you feel about this company coming into the space?
Whenever typically there's competition, right, and the consumer has choice versus a monopoly or oligopoly, it gives you the opportunity to have better value typically for the market. PSA, no matter what anyone says, they definitely know what they're doing. This is not their first rodeo when it comes to grading things. My question is, I know they're very particular when it comes to grading cards. They use like little measuring tools to see how far as centering is versus that. My question would be is, will that affect the grade, unlike it ever has before, because, I've purchased 9/8 that I paid, a significant amount for that the lot, it may have been, miswrapped. And that was just, that was a big question for me, like, what's going to happen. So I had the opportunity to meet the gentleman that I believe is the president of the comic book grading department, spent some time talking with him, and awesome guy. And what I can tell you is he's definitely no rookie either to comics. Right. This gentleman started a comic book business. His kids run the business. They do a great job. They're awesome people. And it's to have him, at the helm, it just really creates, possibility of a lot of good things.
Here we are back again with Brad Sloan from FVF Comics.
Me, but him. Thank you what you do for this business.
Oh, relax.
Let's everybody give him a round of applause.
No, thank you. Your check is in the mail. San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Another year, Brad.
It's almost over.
Yeah. Woo. Well, let me start there. Today's Sunday. You went through the weekend. How was the general show so far? And let me push it one way, which is last year we didn't have the Hall H, and there was an actor strike and writer strike, and different feel at that show.
Yeah.
This year, I personally felt a buzz about people's just general enthusiasm, excitement, maybe movie-related stuff like that. But did that filter in to you in any way here in comic world?
I'm gonna just say I can't speak for everybody else, but the Hall H people, when they came down, they were gonna come anyways last year. They came down to the comic booths and they really didn't know what they were looking at. And it didn't make the show very good for me. It was one of my slower shows, and the jury was out. Boy, if I have another slow show where you spend the most to be here, it's international. It's where you have faces that don't look at your books. My local guys, they've seen the stuff.
Right.
And I only have a few new ones, but good ones. Just got a great raw FF1. So this year was phenomenal. My best show ever. I was on track the first 3 days, came up to this better than average, but this Sunday eclipsed it by far. I sold the FF1.
Prices have come down in sort of ways. In other years, people were sort of discerning these last couple Comic-Cons and other years. Do you feel like people are now maybe ready to buy that book that they have been looking at?
Absolutely. And I'm still kind of shaken because the deal on the FF1, it was raw. And I dealt with this couple. They came and they looked at it. I showed them every page, upside down and backwards. They came back, and this is a 5-figure book. They opened it up again, and I was watching them do it. Super professional. They agreed with my grade, and they told me that in Canada, they have a store, that they guarantee grades. And they're going, I like it. So the enthusiasm just for them alone. Now, what have I been selling this week? All my low-grade keys. Marvel, I put Golden Age out because I thought Marvel's, kind of down. They're still waiting. No more waiting. The wait is over, people. Everybody has waited long enough. The passion and love for these books has surpassed the doom era of pandemic. We are back. My best show. I can't tell you how happy I am about this venue. Internationally, all over the nation. You get people new eyes, and they just came up. I sold a Spider-Man 2 to a guy that bought a Spider-Man 1 just last year. He didn't even speak English. And he looked at it and he goes, yes.
Other big news to come out of the show, just a couple booths down that way, you have PSA.
Yeah, right.
Jumping into the grading game.
I know.
So
Totally.
2 questions to you in that front. One, have you been able to see the cases, and what's your general first impressions of them? And then 2, more bird's eye view, what do you just feel about a company like that coming in? to this space? How do you feel they're going to perform and do?
Well, it was exciting to hear about them. Such a long history of encapsulating graded items. They came just on fire. Their booth is super lit, and their items are on pedestals. You pick it up, it feels like gold, it looks like gold, it sounds. They're heavy, which, hey, that doesn't scare me from the ones you've dropped for 3 feet and they crack and no names needed. And other companies that don't even put a booth out, they walk around and say, hey, we grade books. And there's a few of them that just don't get a good rap anymore. I'm all for it. My real opinion is, will they get the love? Can they get the right money for the grades? CGC has a lock on it.
Yeah.
And everybody goes back to CGC thinking, hey, I own CPCS, it's pretty good, but I want a CGC copy. And we go, well, okay. So they get the love. They're a proven company. I think the new companies need to sell $1 million book.
Right.
Once they sell a giant book and get the right money for it, doesn't have to be a record. Just get equal money for it, and you see that go down, off to the races.
Right. Because it's going to take sort of, you're not somebody who sends in a lot for grading and things of that nature, but if you have an Action 1, until you see the visual proof that those are getting equal value, you would never send it to PSA.
That's right. And it doesn't have to be $1 million. Let's be real. How about a low grade Detective 27 and gets like $500,000? How about low grade Action 1 it gets $200,000? These are the numbers that have to go through grading companies to, much like CGC, this sold, that sold, look at this sold, Comic Link, Metropolis. They all have proof that those books have been selling. So show me the money. Show them the money. Show everybody money. But show me the comics. I love comics.
I do too, Brad. Well, 2024 once again, or I should say another show in the bag once again here at 2024. Final thoughts. How's the rest of the year? Give me some pearls. Give the people pearls. What do you got?
My experience tells me that comics are a little harder to find than even last year and the year before. There are people holding on to their collections, waiting, and that's fine. I'm getting older. I've got a collection. Actually, I saw the collection when I was 12. I bought it when I was 30. I found the guy, and I still have all my books. And they're going to get a moniker of the Brad Sloan collection. Keep an eye out, because my stuff is, I want it to outlive me, and I soon will be bringing full runs of golden, atomic, silver, high grades, hard to find, and it's going to be my end-all, do-all for this. I'm more excited than I've ever been in my life to share that with everybody. I'm actually creating a comic book that's going to be given away with those people that buy mine. And it's the story that Stan Lee called my comic collection the Immaculate Collection.
Well, very cool. We will be eagerly awaiting that Brad Sloan pedigree to hit the market. But until then, Brad, hope you have a great rest of the show, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Swoggle. Let's give it up for him, man. What this guy does for our industry is phenomenal.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. San Diego Comic-Con is always such a fun experience. There really is no con like it. I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are in the comments down below. Remember, this video is just information. I know we spend a lot of time talking about market and comic business, but collecting is also extremely fun, and at the end of the day, no matter what happens with Doom or PSA or the graded comic market, just buy what you like. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all at the next con.